Okay. What have we got? Right, we have a database replication technology which is peer-to-peer and is provable in that you can be certain that the other side has not only been at the same state that you are at least currently at, provided you've got this green suitcase, but that they all knew about everybody else, which may have some bearing. So I'm going to share this new test contract with Acme Corporation and also White Van Deliveries. And there we go. If you look in parties here, there we go, same number of parties, and well, you always get the yellow suitcases first, and the yellow suitcases is enough. The green suitcases are potentially overkill, although they do have some side effects, one of which is that we can handle incomplete networks. If Joe couldn't speak to White Van Deliveries, this stuff would still work, except you wouldn't be getting the green, you'd only get the yellow. But that may well be useful. So let's create a field. And you'll notice that happens, and we all end up with a field A and a field B and a field C. Now, on each of these fields we can add rules. We can have constraint, submit, private, approve, and or list. Essentially, constraint means that it needs to be less than or equal to, or the various mathematical operations you could perform. But yeah, you've got to bring it down to a truth value, or also within there an assignment where you can say that it equals a computation from other fields, and only when those other fields have been filled in do we compute obviously that derived field. So to explain what that gibberish means, I'm going to add a constraint to C, and you'll notice everybody updates there, and then I'm going to say that it must be equal to, I'll know how to do that. And I'm going to say and then the second parameter I have to give that is a formula, and this is A plus B. Right, and those are the names of the fields that I used here. Forgetting how to do that. Form's gone on this. So there we go. Now, so I shall now publish this. Well, actually, no. Before I do that, let's just talk a bit. So let's just get this rule stuff. So if you'll notice on these other guys, it says owner is editing, right? Because we don't want two people editing a rule. After we've thumbed up on that and said, yes, I finished. I mean, you wouldn't want the thumb down, I guess. You just want to delete. It's yours. Then we get a thumb up and thumb down opportunities automatically elsewhere. So let's make sure that we click on green. and we'll click on green here. And then that rule is got a nice little green chain icon, meaning that we've all agreed to it. We've all agreed to that rule. We then go live. Now, so there would need to be a publication phase where you effectively lock the record to say that we've all finished editing. We don't want to edit anymore. We've finished editing and we're happy with what everybody else has done. So that could be two stages actually. We're just going to go publish. Part of the green suitcase quest was to do with locking, but I realised I don't really need that for locking, but it may have the side effect that it will do partial networks. So let's publish that, and that will make this look much nicer, and it's updated the hashes everywhere else, but rather irritatingly, during that transition to live phase, it doesn't refresh the page, which it should be doing. So that's just a little bug, which I shall admit to. But there we go. So, fill in 10. Yeah, 10. So, I'll explain what these thumbs are about. We want to have a model where you can manually approve a variable. Now, actually, the norm is that it just goes through the rules. So to implement this, what I'm actually going to have to do is invent binding, where you can bind a variable. It will be a Boolean that you say yes, no on, to a variable, and that will make everything go much quicker. So we said 10 for that, and we're going to say 20 for B, and when we fill B in, so it's almost convenient because we can see these thumbs coming through now, rather as this thing grinds its way around the network, bouncing lots of lower level requests around. But as you see, when we had approval from everybody on these two values, that we assigned C, and then C starts bouncing around all over the show, and when it's done, we'll end up getting a green tick. So the green tick has come from here because he's the owner, and but everybody else will validate that. So they'll make sure that they think it's a green tick as well. But we need some ordering on when the event is fired. We don't want it being fired necessarily multiple times. So so that's it. That's the basic thing about of an ABC. Let's show you some cascading consensus. So, okay, we have hierarchical consensus of the live contract, and indeed hierarchical consensus of the rules. So let me show you what that means. So I'm going to start creating a contract, and I'm going to call the top block of this. So we can have define our hierarchical contract, and within here we're going to have other blocks. So I'm going to create the first one as part 1 as a block. So you'll notice we've got 2 create fields here, and now we've got a third one. And in here I'm going to create an A. Now, magically halfway through this process, I've decided that I needed to include Acme Core because I forgot, but I can do that with this system. So let's make another block called part 2. And create a field in there called B again. And then let's have C. Oh no, I didn't want that. Should be good. Yep. The block disappeared. It would have appeared on the far side and then gone away. We want C to be a field. Client number. So I'm going to add a constraint to C, which is actually going to be an equality, i.e. an assignment, and I want it to be the press that, I lost the font. So you'll notice on this screen it's now saying owner is editing because this guy hasn't finished. When he's done, he'll press thumbs up. Doesn't really need a thumbs down. If he doesn't like it, then he should delete it. So we've got the first parameter is equals, and then the second parameter is just to show well, 2 things. One is referencing syntax. So to get to A, we're up here now in the contract block, and I want to get to the variable that's in the part 1 block called A. So I have to go part 1 dot A, and I'm going to say greater than part 2 dot B. Then the conditional operator it's a number, isn't it? We've made it a number. So part 1 dot A colon part 2 dot B. Okay. And I'll say I'm good on that. And when I say I'm good on that, and so yeah, I can add another constraint. No, I can't add any more constraints on this because that's just an assignment. So that'll do to demonstrate what I'm trying to do. So publication. So and as I've admitted, several times that while databases are in sync, the contract update didn't work. So part 1A and B. So we can fill them in. There's no rules on who fills them in. So you can fill 20 in. Now, if they do this simultaneously and we get a collision, then we'll just have two proposals and one of us will have to manually back off. So you put 20 in there. I'm going to put 30 in here. And with a bit of luck, after a bit of bouncing around, we'll end up with 30 in that number there. And there it is, 30. 30 will be turning up here shortly. And then I'm pointing at the screen with my finger. And then we'll end up with green things everywhere. And it's all good. Now you'll have noticed as these green ticks turned up, well, in fact, I should have put two fields in here. So once all the fields within the block are validated, then that will go green. Once all the fields within this block are validated, then this goes green. When everything's green here, then that goes green. Now, okay, that's quite involved. The green tick at the top is, the contract has now been satisfied, So it's conceivable as an event that you want to trigger from there. And it's also probably more likely that you'd want to do something on an individual value, perhaps. But if you, on completion of a subpart of the contract, we can trigger an event on this thing. And hopefully it's obvious from the fact that most of the time, at any rate, the pages are updating automatically. These are two entirely different databases, and we really, we can do this on different sides of the planet. That I never know where to begin. So here's a nice large contract. And we've got a delivery address block and then a purchase block, which within it has got two item blocks and then a total, and the total will be equal to item 1 dot amount plus item 2 dot amount. There are various rules on the submission and the approval of these values. The quantity is put in by Joe, but then the price is submitted by Acme, but has to be then approved by Joe. And I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. And then at the bottom there's a summary block, which will only get filled in when, essentially when this value is done, and then we'll work out the VAT and stuff. So let's put that live. So we go through this publication phase, which currently doesn't exist, and we've now got something a little bit more readable. And as you can see, we can only fill in these, but if we go over to Acme, and rather irritatingly, we have to reload on live. There we go. And we don't fill the delivery address in over here. We're at Acme. We do fill in the max quantity for some reason. Well, it was in order that we could have a constraint. And then we shouldn't actually be able to fill the price in until we've got a description, but that's the kind of stuff that I was working on when I decided I'd had enough. So let's start filling some fields in. So, address 1, Joe Grundy at the garage. I will say 21st and what did they say? 50th, yeah, 21st and 32nd, and then we want to be in Canoga Park, and I guess that should really be a zip code, but we'll put in, yeah, 24/7 for you. Oh, these votes haven't gone through yet. And good. So as that went through, these thumbs were coming across from everybody that's approved, and as I've explained, that is sort of overkill. But when we've got a full set of thumbs, we get a green tick, and the green tick cascades up. You know, so we now know the whole of delivery address is filled in. So let's buy some stuff. I want whammy bars. And I'll have 12. It's a big group. So that's good. And I'll have Stratocasters. That's about right now. And I'll have a quantity again of 12. So let's pop over to Acme Corporation quickly, so there we go. He wants 12 Stratocasters. So that should be going green, and we've gone green at the top. So I'll say the price for, well, let's do the whammy bars. Price for whammy bars is $4.49 each, and the price for Stratocasters is $199. Very expensive. So good. So then we have to go over here because we're not going to get an amount until Joe has agreed the price. So I'll agree the price on that. I'll agree the price on that. We could say no, but then we need a delete button on the other side, which I just haven't put in. So let's just say yes. So now, once we get the thumb back, that total will fill in, right? And then we're going to need to get an approval of that. Oh, we haven't filled in that, have we? We needed to fill in this. So now really, again, we shouldn't have been able to fill in the quantity until this had been specified, and if we'd filled in a number that was wrong, it would have been bounced. So let's go back over here. And good, so that's come through, so that's green. And total is done, so we're just getting approval on that. This should just go straight through. This is, I mean, each of these is having to do this thumb swapping, which is redundant, other than for when you need to do this thumb trick, which I've explained. I need to do this binding behaviour, and then ting, and that goes green, and then we get a green tick here, and we can fire an event from that. And with a bit of luck, we haven't refreshed the green ticks. So there we go. Not a lot to do. Okay, I thought I'd just show you something to do with this input format stuff. So I've got a document load and save format, which any programmer would get the idea of what was going on here. It's reasonably useful. Well, it's actually been very useful and you would want something like this, but the problem with it is that you need to understand what I rather grandly call the generic elemental model. You need to understand my schema. You need to know that there are things called contracts that have elements, and they've got element rules and rule and stuff like that. And so it would be nice if we had a more usable format. So it would be nice if we could specify a contract in something a little bit lighter like this, and this is one of my sort of to-dos, so that you're really defining the hierarchical nature of structure of your document, stroke contract, whatever you want to call it, and then when necessary we have to say underbar the special field that says that these are the attributes to do with this, and if we don't put anything there, there's no attributes and no children, we know that you're just a text field accessible by anybody without any rules. But it means that someone could initially provide, very easily, using this kind of thing, provide you with virtually the input code to start working on, and then you can load that, obviously, and work on it in the editor, and then output it, and you should get something that looks just about identical. So now the deal about this is this kind of reusability of analysis, that we can have sub-blocks that are defined as standard within a group of you or within an industry, or even by the government, that there's a particular block that you have to include, and it's got such and such a set of rules that should be legally applied. So that's the so it's not free text. It's nothing to do with parsing legalese or anything like that. It's just a portable document smart contract format. That is all.